input, to have that strategic weapon in our armory, to rule the roost, as Professor Raina always says, and see to it that we are using technology to our benefit. We are using technology to the benefit of the society, to the benefit of the organization, and to the benefit of the mankind by and large. So with these few words, I would now request Professor Goyal to address the gathering. Over to you, Professor Goyal.
Thank you, Ashwani. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
I will start my presentation. So, can you all see these slides?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Perfect. Perfect. So today's presentation, as has been shared with you, the title is Business and Engineering and Technology. You know, some of you have said, the student said that the business will not be same, and you will be surprised that it was never the same. Technology has always been during the presentation. You will see drastically transforming the business in the last, at least in 300 plus years. You know, there have been waves, there have been revolutions, and new businesses emerged, new ways of doing businesses emerged, customers' needs changed, many things happened. So before I get into that, so this presentation of today will actually address 4 issues. We'll try to understand at an abstract level, what is the nature of business, what is engineering, what is technology, okay, what is the crux of it, and then we'll see what is the impact of engineering and technology on business in general, in history, what it has been, and then what is the current wave of technology and what is the likely impact on business of this current wave. And then in our little way at Institute of Engineering and Technology, how are we equipped to help you and our other students to handle these challenges that are emerging. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about IET at the end, just a little bit. What are the strengths and how can we contribute to it? Okay, so here is my own little definition of business, which includes all kind of organizations that are trying to do something, not just for profit, but for any kind of value, for any stakeholder. Okay, so businesses are dynamic and open systems. Dynamic means that they are changing. They are changing. They are not static. They keep changing. Sometimes they change fast, rapidly. Sometimes they change slow, but they keep changing. New things happen. And open systems. Open means they exchange things with things that are not part of the system. They may take money from outside, they may take resources from outside, they may contribute goods to outside market, they may contribute services to outside market, they will pay taxes, they will draw on policies, etc., etc. So they are not closed units, they are open. Okay? And these are open systems of activities. There are many activities that take place in a business. And what is the purpose of every system has a purpose. The purpose of the system is to create value and allow the exchange of that value amongst various stakeholders. That is, to my mind, the definition of business. Now, this will include not only profit-making organizations, this will also include the NGOs. Today's world, many people are making wonderful careers in NGOs also. Okay, that are not profit-making. So the old definition of profit-seeking organization being treated as business is no more valid today. So any organization, it could be a loose organization. It need not be a tight organization. Okay, it need not be housed in a building. It is only saying it's a system which is dynamic and open, or a system of activities, various activities. We will have a short look at what kind of activities do take place typically in any business. And the purpose is to create value. Value could be in terms of profit, value could be in terms of usability. Value could be in terms of comfort to the user, safety to the user, health to the user. So any kind of value, various things that humans value are considered as value here. Okay, whatever any human will value is value here. Okay, so they try to create value and they facilitate exchange of the value between different stakeholders. That's the business. Okay, engineering. What is engineering? It's a profession which uses the knowledge of maths and sciences, and this knowledge is to be gained by study, by experience, and by practice. All three, not just study, or not just experience, or not just practice. All three put together. And then this knowledge is applied with judgment. Judgment for what? We'll come back to judgment in a short while. To develop ways to utilize materials and forces of nature for the benefit of mankind. Okay, materials and forces of nature are to be utilized. So that is the purpose of engineering. They develop ways to utilize materials and forces of nature in a judicious manner, economically, and judicious manner would mean doing it mindfully, as per the needs of the society, as per the wisdom of the society, being mindful of the safety of people, being mindful of the health of people, being mindful of the cultural constraints, being mindful of the regulations, being mindful of several things, not just mindlessly, blindly applying maths and science. Using maths and science, not just doing with thumb rules. Using maths and science, deep knowledge of maths and science is used, which is gained by study, experience, and practice, and it is applied with judgment on considering various factors: safety, health, regulation, law, social implications, environmental implications, future generations. So many issues are to be bothered about to utilize the material and forces of nature, again for the benefit of mankind. And then what is technology? These are again systems. Technologies are again systems. And what is included in these systems? These are techniques and activities. So several techniques and several activities can be combined with some implements and artifacts, some tools, some objects. All that constitute a technology. Okay. And what is the impact of these? Any technology, they alter the pattern of human activity and institutions. So technologies are created, and sometimes they have unexpected impact also. So they alter the human activity and institutions. We'll see more detail in more detail what does that mean, by making words that shape our culture and environment. In a sense, technologies reflect and extend human interests. Each technology that you are aware of, it is actually a manifestation of some human interest. It is a manifestation of some human activity and social arrangement. And it extends human interests. New technologies always end up extending human interests. You know, some of us who can't paint on paper, who can't sketch on paper, with some technologies find it very easy to sketch and express themselves. Some who can't compose music on conventional music systems can use the modern composition software and can create some software. So it extends human interest. Some people who are not able to pursue certain interests in certain areas because their skills were poor in those areas, technologies can extend their interest, their activities. You know, with a wheelchair extends the activities of somebody who is unfortunate and whose legs are not properly working. Okay, technologies extend the social arrangements. You all know of what Facebook has done to the social arrangements. Okay, which in turn, so technologies change, reflect, and extend, and these are transformed by the technological systems. So that's the meaning. That's the basic meaning of the business, engineering, and technology. Because before we talk of these three, we must first have a basic understanding of these three words before we move on. What integrates them? All three. What is common to all three? Would any student like to comment on that? What is common to all these three? Is there a common factor to these three? Would any student like to comment here? You can speak out.
Sir, innovation.
Well, anything else? That is?
It's for us, it's for people, it's for the mankind.
Yes. But Ashwani, you should hold your horses. You know, this is for Bisman and his colleagues to comment.
I treat myself in this session as a student only, sir.
Thank you.
For my curiosity.
Thank you for being kind and humble. Okay. Yeah. So people, that's the common factor. Business, so what is it for? Business is for stakeholders. Engineering is for the benefit of mankind. Technologies reflect and extend human interests, activities, and social arrangement. In these three definitions, using different words, this common thing is there. People are at the center of business, people are at the center of engineering, people are at the center of technology. It is the people who combine these things, and it is because of the people's needs and because of the people's interest, because of the people's activities, because of the people's desire, that the businesses exist, the engineering happens, and the technologies come to existence. People are at the center. So understanding people is very, very important. Okay, I'm sure in your curriculum you have some courses that help you understand people.
That's true.
So let's look at the stakeholders very quickly for business. What are the stakeholders? You have a variety of stakeholders. Of course, you have the customer, the first mole. Gandhiji also said, you know, that customer is, I don't remember his exact words, but I've seen that phrase at several places, that customer is the king or something like that he had said.
Grahak Bhagwan hota hai, customer is the God.
Something like that he had said, something like that. Okay, so customer is one stakeholder, but there are many others. Investors, government, regulators. Today, regulators are very, very important stakeholders. Big businesses have closed down because they ignored the regulator as a stakeholder. Okay, so one has to be very, very mindful of the regulator. Are they a nuisance? No, they reflect the collective interest of the larger society. So the regulators exist. So if you don't follow the regulators, you are doing something which is not in compliance with the larger interest of the larger society. So the regulators come and close you down. Okay. Employees are stakeholders. Okay. Industry bodies like FICCI, CII, ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, all those are stakeholders. Suppliers, okay, your business partners. Media is a big stakeholder these days, very, very important stakeholder. And larger civil society and the community. All these are stakeholders. All these give something to any business. All these also take something from the business. There is an exchange taking place, exchange of value. Sometimes this value is in terms of money. Sometimes this is in terms of some license. Sometimes this is in terms of some goods. Sometimes this is in terms of service. Sometimes it is in terms of some service, or sometimes it is in terms of some information. Sometimes it is in terms of some goodwill or some support. So there is a value which is exchanged by the business with each of these stakeholders. So when you plan a business, some of you, and I hope more of you, do that in the next 2 or 3 years while you are here, and we will all be very, very happy to help you plan and go ahead with your own business rather than creating some work for our placement cell. Okay. So create your own business. So when you plan your business, do pay attention to all these stakeholders. And what is happening is the relationship with these stakeholders is increasingly getting assisted by technology. So each of this exchange is now tech enabled. Government exchange, let's say, GST, it's all tech enabled. You pay the taxes through a portal. Okay, there is a whole system that has been created, and there was a lot of criticism of that in the beginning, that it is not working well. So But the point that I'm trying to make here is that technology has become a channel for facilitating the value, whatever value is to be exchanged with whatever stakeholder. There is a tech element there. If it is customers, of course, there is a lot of value that the technology enables. Sometimes the good itself is technology itself. There is no separate good, only the technology is there. Okay, Netflix doesn't give you any physical good. It just gives you access to certain digital product. That's all. Okay, and a lot of such digital products are getting sold, and a lot of services are being sold now. There's a lot of market for that, big business. It's not just physical good as was the case earlier. Okay? So you have to imagine new kind of, you play games. In some games, there are a lot of virtual goods that you buy and actually spend for. You buy an avatar, you buy a weapon, you buy a clothing, a particular suit, maybe a virtual land, simple currency. So virtual goods are no more uncommon. They are becoming more and more common, and that economy will grow. Okay, that our ancestors used to say, this word is Maya. Right? This actually is Maya now. We can see what we used to think as physical was told as Maya by our ancestors, but now because of the digital technology, we have a lot of Mayavi objects that we are exchanging and talking about. You can't hold them, you can't weigh them, you can't, they don't have a length, they don't have a material, but they are objects that they are valued. Okay, people pay real money to buy those virtual objects. Okay, so there's a lot of value being exchanged, and all that value exchange is also tech enabled. That's one impact of the tech on the relationship with the stakeholders. So these are some stakeholders and how the exchange. So some stakeholder giving finance and extracting profit out of it. Some customer buying the product and getting some comfort of the product out of it. So there is a value. This diagram shows that between each stakeholder and the business at the center, there is an exchange taking place. Something is being given by stakeholder, and something is coming in return to that, which may be in different form or same form. Okay. Now the other thing, we have seen the stakeholders and how we exchange value with the stakeholders, and it is a system of activity. So we have spent some time on value, we have spent some time on stakeholders, now let's spend some time on system of activities. What sort of activities? So here I go back to a very famous, those of you who have already studied it, maybe you may have studied Porter's famous model of value chain. He long ago identified these 9 activities, classified them into 5 primary and 4 support activities, and he said any business would have these 9 activities. The nature of these activities would differ in each business, in each particular kind of business or in each industry, but each will have these activities in some form. Okay, so how you manage these activities is business management, essentially. If you know these and how you integrate them, how you minimize the losses, how you bring the efficiency, technology plays a big role in that. Okay, so each of this activity is some kind of an interaction between somebody which we call as actor, or we can call as subject using the social science terminology. Somebody who does something is subject, or somebody who studied is subject, and they perform something on object. Some object they perform. So these are transformative interactions. Activity is a transformative interaction. That is something that's transformed. The object gets transformed. In fact, not only the object, subject also gets transformed. When I am teaching you, I am not only teaching you, I am also learning from you. The act, though I am speaking 95 or 98% of the time, even then, in the act of speaking to you, I am getting new insights. I am getting transformed. So this activity is an interaction, a transformative interaction between the subject and the object, and there are several parameters of the activity. There is a desired outcome of any activity. There is a subject or more than one subject. There is an object or more than one object. it takes place in a space. That space may be virtual or physical. That space may be one location, or it could be distributed. It could be geographically distributed. It may use some tool or several tools. It will certainly have some rules. Every activity would have some rules. And community, there is a community. The object that things are performed upon in this activity, there are other people also who have a stake on that object. They also do something with that object some other time, or maybe same time. So all those form the community members. So while doing the activity, you have to be mindful of the interests of the other community members. There is a division of labor. I do this thing with this object, you do this thing with the object. I will cut it, you polish it. That's a division of the labor. Okay, I will develop it, you test it. Okay, or the vice versa. So each activity comprises of actions and operations. Okay. Now, looking at this business as a system of activities, the purpose of those activities we have already spent a lot of time. Collectively, they must create a value for stakeholders and a balanced set of values for a variety of stakeholders. But this is a system of activities, 9 primary and support activities essentially, each comprising of all these various dimensions of activity: outcome, subject, object, space, tool, rule, community, etc. What may change with engineering and technology? Students, which of these things can change because of some engineering or some technology? What in this slide should I convert into red? So red things would be those that may change because of engineering and technology.
Sir, I would like to add in that there would be almost everything that could be red, because technology can literally change everything. So starting it off with one of your last point, that was division of labor. So we divide labor to perform work efficiently. But what if we have automated machines? We don't even need labor for that.
And then you need still labor. So the role of the labor changes. The labor now is to maintain the machine, to install those machines, and to run those machines.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the division of the labor changes. The activity itself changes. Earlier, when we had a manual rickshaw, the role of the subject and the object was, the subject was to supply the energy to the machine. With the auto rickshaw, the subject is not to supply the energy from the body. Subject is to control the auto rickshaw, not supply the energy, because the energy is coming from the engine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the transfer? So everything in this activity, very nicely said, Bisman. You really deserve to be the class representative. Everything in the activity stands to change by innovations in engineering and technology. Sometimes just the space will change. You create a wonderful space where things become more easier than before. Okay. Earlier, I mean, you have a market, that's one activity. You create a supermarket where everything is available under one roof. That's transformed. Only the space has been created. Everything else remains same. But then the experience becomes very different. Who wants to sweat in Gandhi Bazaar and Nehru Bazaar? You can go to the malls and enjoy the air conditioner there. Okay, and sometimes sit also on the sofa set. Okay, so technology. So while planning technology, you have to think of. So you are not technology students, but you have to work with the technology people and think what. So when you have to think of new business, you have to actually think. There is a 10x rule in entrepreneurship. Only if you can make things 10 times faster, easier, cheaper, blah, 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 safer, etc., does your product has a chance to compete. A new product or a new service will compete with the existing dinosaurs only if it is 10 times superior in some way. If it is not at least 10 times superior, you have no chance to fight with the dinosaurs of the current time. And that current time will be today and 20 years later. Whatever is the dinosaur of the day will not allow a new rabbit to fight with him unless the rabbit can run 10 times faster than him. So the rabbits have to be 10 times superior. So you have to see what you want to change in the activity. So this red list is a wonderful tool for innovation. What do I change? Okay. So this one made a remark, and Ashwani also said that it is because of COVID that the business will not remain same. But you forget, there was a thing called first industrial revolution. Did things remain same then? Was there any big city before industrial revolution, first industrial revolution? We didn't have London the way it is. People were living in rural area. More people were in more rural area. Big cities came into existence only after first industrial revolution. Why? Because before that it was very difficult to travel. First industrial revolution brought railways, and it made it possible for people to travel from the rural areas to some other area and have factories in the cities. Okay, so first industrial revolution was a transformation. It brought the steam engine. You all studied about the steam engine, in the school days. Steam engine, the power to create energy using, before that it was water that was being used for energizing the movement. Steam became a much more, it was a transformative, big revolution of that era. Big revolution of that era. I encourage you all to study what was the impact of a steam engine on the businesses of that era. So in that era, how did we become a slave of UK? Because we did not have this technology. They had this technology. Okay, if we had this technology, they wouldn't have been able to enslave us. So the society changes because of technology and engineering. In the old times, in the Roman, there were gladiators, there were slaves in the Roman Empire. Why slaves? Why did they need slaves? Someone other than Bismarck. Class representative doesn't mean he has to speak everything. Someone other than him. Yes. Why did they need slave? Make a guess. You may not know, but make a guess. Why would anybody need slave?
So Raghav, you can go unmute and answer.
Sir, if we are working over there, if we are running any project, so all we need is some labor and some kind of person who performs under us. Like if I'm just doing a task for making a factory of goods, of anything like that, such a raw material, I need a person who just work under me just to carry all the forward things between to the managers, and not only between to the managers, to the all employee of the person or employee of the factory, so that they performs and he just tell him or know them aware about what to do and what not to do.
So the production technology was so low quality that expensive labor could not be afforded. One needed the cheap and in fact the free labor in order to produce goods.
Yes, sir.
Okay, free or near free. So slaves provided that opportunity to have free or near free labor, and hence production was possible. It is because of the lack of technology, lack of appropriate technology, that society, in our society we had caste system, and in their society they had slaves. If the technology of today was available in that era, maybe they didn't have the need to have slaves, or we did not have to have the caste system. It was because the technology was of a very low level or not there at all. Certain works had to be done. So they used only the human energy. So they enslaved people or put them in the lower section and made them to work that way. So technology See, one can take a jhanda and carry out a lot of speeches and take out movements, etc. But a great technology for cleaning the sewages and the toilets is the biggest transformation that can bring in the caste change rather than taking a jhanda and moving around. If you bring a cheaper technology, if you bring a cleaner technology, if you bring an efficient technology and eliminate, because there are certain social needs. Certain jobs have to be done necessarily. If you don't have the technology, you would put the men to do that job. But if you can invent the technology, you don't need the men to do that job, and the men can be free to do more sensible things. They can do more useful things, not working like a robot there. So the lack of technology was the reason for the way we developed our society. The history of civilization is actually the history of engineering. So kings won certain wars because they had certain technology. Certain kings lost the war because they did not have that certain technology. Rest all, Deshbhakti, etc. is a different thing. But main thing was access to technology and innovation. So the new technology we go back to this, the second revolution. After first revolution, we had the steam engine. Second revolution replaced that steam engine by electricity. And it gave us, Ford gave us this wonderful conveyor belt concept of production. And you may have seen the movie Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin. And if you have not, I strongly encourage each one of you to, in the evening today itself, watch it on the YouTube. Modern Times, wonderful movie by Charlie Chaplin. Okay, the concept of conveyor belt, production houses that came and the city life that came. So that changed the business once again. New kind of businesses emerged. New kind of ways of doing businesses emerged. The supply chain changed. Everything changed. In the businesses, those activities changed because, okay, printing press became more efficient. Okay, third revolution came, or started coming just before my birth. Computers and electronics. Okay, that's the third revolution that came. Okay, so what did the first revolution do? It gave a way to free the man from being the source of energy. Earlier, if you have seen the old movies where the man is providing the energy to carry out the ships, to navigate, to provide the energy. So ships are being energized by the men. Steam engine replaces the man as a source of energy and puts the steam there. But production of steam was still a very bulky affair, and it could not be transported long distances. So it had to be produced where it has to be consumed. Came electricity, which gave this freedom that it was not so bulky. Through a wire you can transfer it, whereas you can't transfer steam through a wire. For transferring steam, you need big pipes. It was a very, very bulky and cluttering affair to transfer energy. Electricity became much, much cleaner. And the other advantage was it could be transferred long distances. You generate power at some place and transfer it to another country. That's possible. So because energy could be produced at some place and could be transmitted to some other location in a very, very neat, clean and non-bulky manner, it created new opportunities. Okay, so new businesses emerged because of electricity. Automobile became a big sector here after second revolution because of the conveyor belt production technique that the Ford brought in. He introduced this concept of conveyor belt. Third revolution did not do anything to the energy thing. It gave another dimension. It freed man as a routine controller. With the electronics and computers, you could delegate some control function to machine. Electronics can sense and take some action automatically. Automation started coming. Before that also mechanical automation was also there, but electronics brought it in a big way. Computers brought it in an even bigger way. Okay, so first two revolutions are about creating new sources of energy, which are cheaper, more manageable, okay, more reliable, okay, and more standard. Third revolution is giving a very keen, very clean way of controlling activities. Okay, at your home, you have a water tank at the top, rooftop, and most of you would have already installed a buzzer. Whenever the water overflows, you get a buzzer. That's electronics. Otherwise, before that buzzer, one would have to see, whether the water has go check, okay, or just wait for the water to start overflowing, and then so electronics made that possible. Automation, activities. So a lot of human energy was again saved from mundane activities. What was required as a chowkidar kind of a function, Chowkidar is a beautiful word these days, but that chowkidar kind of a function that was being carried out by the men earlier was delegated to electronics and computers. You check out when it flows to above this level, do this kind of check. This electronics started doing. Okay, and a lot of new industry, communication industry, telephone industry, radio, television, all sort of gadgets, new kind of businesses, new ways of doing businesses. Fourth revolution has started recently. It has big data, it has AI, it has 3D printing, and more than that, it has hyperconnectivity. Hyperconnectivity. So, as a result of this fourth revolution, fourth industrial revolution that has been going on since the beginning of this century, some of you were almost born when the fourth revolution started. Almost. You are the kids of fourth industrial revolution. Okay, I am the kid of the third industrial revolution. There is nobody here who is the kid of the first or the second industrial revolution. Okay, so you have grown with fourth industrial revolution happening around you. Okay, so what are these four industrial revolution new technologies that are happening? You have big data, huge amount of data. Every year we more than double the data that is available with the mankind. Every year now, within less than 1 year, we are doubling. So we did not have in the last 5,000 years, we did not have so much of information that we have created in the last 20 years. Okay, some people may misguide you that there was a Satyuga earlier, which was great and it had everything, and we are living in the dark era. But the fact is, scientific fact is, we did not have as much information, as much data in the last 5,000 years as we have created in the last 20 years. That's a fact. We have a lot of automation coming. Different kind of automation at the workplace, automation in the home, automation in the kitchen, automation in everything. Whether it is a factory or office or shop or business or whatever it is, there is automation coming up. Hyperconnectivity. Things are connected with things. People are connected with people. And people are connected with things. Hyperconnectivity. And not one-to-one. Many to many. One person is connected with many things. One thing is connected with many other things. One thing is connected with many people. Okay? And integration. A lot of things are getting integrated. The biological system, the physical system, and the information system all are getting integrated. The chip implants are not a dream anymore. The body implants are not a dream anymore. Right? So integration of the biological system, the physical system, and the information system is all taking place and is going to get accelerated within this decade. You will see transformative projects. It is difficult to, being a student of technology, it is difficult to keep pace with the change that is taking place. So a lot of continuous study is required in order to keep pace for you, my dear. New sources of energy are coming, which are renewable, cleaner. New materials are getting invented continuously, which are lighter, more durable, environment friendly. Okay. Here is some interesting data about automation. 60% of all occupations that we currently have, at least 30% of those, 30% of the activities done in 60% of the occupations are technically automatable using current technology. So whatever can be automated will be automated. Some entrepreneur, some innovator, some inventor will create a tool, a device to automate that. It is only waiting for somebody to pick up the idea. You can be the first. So think of the possibility, collaborate with your peer students in the Institute of Engineering Technology and create a new idea, demonstrate it, create a prototype. Employment will grow in creative jobs, in high cognitive and creative jobs. Employment will decrease in routine and repetitive jobs. Why will it decrease? Because those jobs will more and more be delegated to machines, will be automated. Routine, repetitive jobs will be automated. Creative jobs would require smart human beings. That is why there is a decline in the share of labor in the GDP. The lighter gray graph here shows a general trend that the labor's share in the GDP has been declining in the last 70 years. Whereas the profit has been increasing, the darker graph. Companies like Apple make huge amount of profit because they create products that no one else is creating. What kind of company will make great product? That doesn't have a competition, or that kills the competition, that creates a product or service which surpasses the competition's capabilities. Then they can charge a premium. Okay. Companies so there is a blue ocean and red ocean terminology that you would study when you study entrepreneurship. Okay. So you want to be in the blue ocean where the competition is less, so that you can sail fast and in the direction you want. And that would happen if you identify the right opportunity and you create R&D culture and create innovative products. And for that, it will require you to have damn good understanding of technology. Just good understanding of HR, marketing skills, etc., and finance, etc., is going to be grossly insufficient to lead businesses in the current times. More so in the emerging era. Unless you have, so Pichaiya becomes what he has become. Okay, so many tech leaders become the business leaders. So good tech understanding in leading businesses is very, very important. So keep reading about the technological trends. Keep reading about the possibilities that the technology offers. You know, remain aware of the technology while updating yourself with the businesses. Let us see what is happening because of what is a projection. I will show some projections made by some estimation agencies. Business Insider. See, by 2027, the IoT device installation base is going to be nearly 4 times as compared to today. 4 times within 5, 6, 7 years. So imagine if the IoT devices that are installed world over are going to be in so many billions. Right now there are around 10 billion. It will become more than 40 billions in next 7 years. What kind of things are possible? What kind of businesses can you do with those IoT devices? What kind of services can you offer with those IoT devices? Imagine that. Because IoT devices are going to be omnipresent. Okay, everywhere there will be IoT devices. Look at this diagram. It shows the share of labor between men and machine, okay, in 2018 versus projected in 2022. In the tasks that involve a lot of thinking, reasoning and decision making, that's a high level cognitive task. People thought that's a man's job. Today it is like 19-20%. Machine is already supporting something through various data analytics tools, some AI tools. This is going to increase to 28% within next 2-3 years. Even reasoning and decision making. There are projections that there will be an AI machine sitting in the company's boardroom in the next 5 to 7 years for taking the top level, board level, director level decisions for the companies. It will be there in the boardroom there. Okay. For coordination, the share of the machine is going to increase by 10%. So look at various kinds of activities, go through this list and see in the next few years, the share of the machine's contribution is increasing consistently. More in some areas, much more in some other areas. Overall, across all the activities put together, if in 18 it was 29% share of the work time in an activity spent by machine, in 25 it will be more than 50%, 52%. So if business is to be managed where more work is being done by the machines, you better understand the machine. Because if you don't understand the machine, you will not be able to manage. It is business management is no more just limited to people management. It is people equipped with a machine that you need to manage. You want to tell them what you do with the machine. Otherwise, they will mislead you if you don't have a deep understanding of the possibilities and the limitations. Or you might ask them to do things that are not possible. Okay. On that day, because of the technology limitation, technology will improve. Certain things will be possible, certain things will not be possible. You as a business manager would have to have understanding what is possible, what is not possible, and try to continuously push the limit, but not demand your teams to do things that are not even feasible using the current technology. For that, you need to understand the current technology. Here is a projection of the revenue from the AI market from 2016 to 2025. Look at it. Currently, we are here, 10,000 million nearly. This is going to be like 60,000 million in 2025. That should interest any businessman. If a market is going to expand 6 times in 5 years, a smart businessman should be interested in that market. Or one can continue to sell the groceries, maybe through e-commerce, and be happy. Even grocery sellers on the e-commerce are applying AI technologies in a big way. Amazon is really investing hugely in AI. Amazon portal is already using AI to serve us. Another forecast, big data, market size, going to double in the next 5-6 years. Any businessman should be interested. The markets that are going to multiply within the next decade are the business areas where you should be interested in. To think of new ventures or to plan for the companies that are working in these areas and join those companies that are working in these areas so that you grow faster. RPA. Look at, this is a country specific slide, but the trend is global. Today it is very small. Within next 7 years, just see the expansion from 2020 to 27. Huge expansion in the business. Blockchain, 2018. Okay, less than $500 million, around 500 million. 2025, 25 billion. Huge expansion. That's the growth. So if the markets in these areas, whether it is IoT, whether it is big data, whether it is AI, reality, or blockchain expanding rapidly within this decade. When you graduate, these figures would have already expanded. And certain transformative technologies may actually further accelerate it. Global virtual goods, I talked about the virtual goods in the beginning, that you have virtual goods now. You buy certain virtual goods while playing games and buy some characters, buy some. So this is the market of the virtual goods. So if you are a creative person, you can create virtual goods. Imagine certain virtual goods. Or create a platform where people will buy virtual goods. For interesting needs, because people are crazy species. We have physical needs, we have psychological needs, we have social needs, we have intellectual needs, we have aesthetic needs. A painting would sell for billions of dollars. Why? Because it serves a certain aesthetic purpose, it serves a certain social purpose. So virtual goods will sell in large numbers. So you don't need material to create these goods. You only need imagination, your creativity. Okay, so the goods that are not material dependent are coming, and you can create them and monetize those goods. Further, manufacturing is changing. Rather than the conventional workshop where you have the lathe, etc., cutting down the material to create new objects, this is the additive manufacturing where 3D printing is printing the objects. So this market is again becoming manifold, more than 3 times in the next 5-6 years. So the technologies of the manufacturing are changing, the goods are changing, the services are changing, everything is changing. Be aware of it. Pick some sector where you have more knowledge than others, and then you can leverage your business knowledge to create new possibilities. And because of these technologies, the business models are changing. New business models. Who would have imagined a company like Uber 20 years ago? Who would have imagined a company like Airbnb 20 years ago? That without buying a single taxi, you create the largest taxi service in the world. Who would have imagined it? Okay, so new business models are emerging because of technology. The ways of doing business are changing. You just manage your server and the software and you make big amount of money. On every taxi that is hired by anybody, you make 20% cut. That's exploitation of the driver, but that's how it is currently. If they get competition, maybe the driver will get larger share. But right now, that's how it is. So they make more money than the driver. Okay. So crowd economy, where without investing in your taxis, without paying salary to the employees, that is the drivers, you can create the largest taxi service in the world, everywhere. By crowd economy. Okay. Free data economy. You offer something for free, get the people hooked on, and then charge them for something else. People join the Facebook for free and then give you so much of data that you can monetize later. Okay. Smartness economy. Whatever is there, make it intelligent. Put some AI in it. Put some sensor in it. Earlier, in the second industrial revolution, what they did was, whatever object existed, they started putting electricity in it. That was the mantra. Whatever exists, make it electricity run. Today's mantra is whatever machine exists, whatever tool exists, try to see if you can make it intelligent by putting some AI in it, by putting some IoT in it, by putting some big data in it. Make it smarter. Okay. Virtual experience. I already told you virtual goods are selling. Virtual reality is expanding. Augmented reality is expanded. Games are a big engagement. Okay. Transformation economy. People don't want a good experience. People want transformative experience. Even a bad experience can be transformative. I saw there is a jail in some city in India where they have converted that old jail into a tourism center. People can actually book and become inmates of the jail by paying a fee for 3 days. And they are treated like, the prisoners there. So they have to live the life of the prisoner. They want to experience it. And it's a transformative experience for them. So new ways of giving transformative experience are coming. They will be tech enabled, or without tech also one can have a transformative experience. Circular economy, where the wastages are reutilized, pollution is not created, waste is utilized. And decentralized autonomous organization. These are the new business models that are coming up. So without making huge investment, see, in today's world, let me tell you, you only need a laptop and internet connection to create the biggest company in the world. And of course, little bit of brain. A laptop and internet connection, and not just little bit, lot of imagination. Lot of imagination if you have, you can create a company which is richer than Apple, which is richer than the Bank of China. It is that kind of possibility in today's world. That your father was not a capitalist, hence you cannot become a businessman, is not an excuse for your generation. It is, you don't have an idea, that's why. If you have an idea and the passion and the perseverance to pursue that idea and the knowledge to convert that idea into a product or a service, you can actually create a company. So this guy Paytm, son of a school teacher who studied in Hindi medium in a village in Aligarh till school, is the owner of the Paytm. He created Paytm and is the biggest, one of the biggest businessmen of today at such a young age. He had the idea, perseverance. He spent all his time while doing his engineering at Delhi College of Engineering, learning programming very well. And then the rest is the history. So the new business models are emerging. Old way of doing business is no more valid. You have to invent new ways of doing business. It is not that the technology will be new and the way of doing business will be old. That will not work. Smarter people will find new ways of doing business. So what are the technologies that are likely to be adopted by different companies? This shows World Economic Forum report 2018. It shows the big data is likely to be adopted by 85% companies in the world. Web and app-based markets, technologies are going to be adopted by 75% companies in the world. IoT is likely to be adopted by 75% companies. Machine learning, 73% companies. Cloud computing, 72% companies. Look at this. What is the likelihood that by 2022, these technologies are likely to be adopted by what percentage of companies are likely to adopt these technologies? And when the companies adopt these technologies, the managers who are not comfortable with these technologies are hardly going to manage anything. So learn about these technologies. And there are a lot of ways to learn. Some here, some on the MOOCs. Lot of learning material available on the web. Be aware of these technologies and see how businesses can benefit from these technologies. You don't have to get into the intricacies of these, but you have to understand what is the possibility of it, what is the limitation of it, how it can be leveraged, how it can transform the business, what aspect of business can it transform, what aspect of the activity can it transform, who are the stakeholders who can benefit from it. which customer can draw some benefit from it by your innovation. So with this backdrop, I now want to talk of the last segment, that how IET can help you in this context of today. We already have some compulsory courses that the Institute of Engineering and Technology teaches to you, to BBA students 3 courses, and to MBA student 1 course in the 3rd term. And there are options for technology electives. If you have an interest, we can talk with your faculty and create more if there is a need and interest. These are the courses that we teach. In intelligent automation, we just completed, we taught RPA, which is that technology which has this growth path. This is the growth path of the RPA in the next 7 years. This was taught to BBA 2nd year students under intelligent automation. Some took interest, some did not take so much of interest. They would say, why should I learn it? I'm a business student. Teach me marketing, teach me HR, teach me finance. Well, good for you. The world is changing. You don't want to change, your choice. The world is changing. And then there is a course on AI in the context of business for MBA students. And we can talk more about it. These are the courses that we teach to you already. So the Institute, as Vice Chancellor said in the beginning, twice today, earlier also he had said that we try to do things at the intersection of technology, design, and business. Business faculty teaches some courses to our students. We teach some courses to their students. We want our students to know a little bit of both the words. In fact, all the 3 words. This is the offering that we make at IET for the students who join our programs. We have BTech programs in CSE with specializations in all these new technologies: data science, AI, IoT, RPA, cloud computing, big data, information security, electrical electronics engineering, again IoT specialization, digital systems, signal processing, power system, mechanical, 3D printing, automation, etc. Civil engineering, modern civil engineering. We have started a BCA this year, where we again give a specialization in data analytics, cloud computing, RPA. We have MSc program in data analytics. We have MTech programs in 4 MTech programs. Okay, data science, 5 MTech programs actually, IoT also, and health, safety and environment, and one I missed, AI and machine learning. And of course, we have PhD program also in technology. That's our strength. We are 40 faculty members in the Institute of Technology. Out of 40, around 3 and 8 are 7 or 8 are professors. Okay, 80% of our faculty are PhDs, which is very unusual in an engineering school. Okay, 80% of the faculty in an engineering school is usually not PhD, other than IITs. Okay, 70%, more than 70% of our faculty has more than 10 years of work in teaching and research and industry. 65% of our faculty have had at least 1 degree from IIT, BITS, Indian Statistical Institute, NIT or IIIT. Around 20% have studied abroad. This university is new, but the faculty that we have got, either from here or from their earlier places, wherever they were earlier, and teaching, their students are working at all these companies. Okay, so our extended alumni base, that is the alumni of our faculty, may not be of this university, but they are the alumni of our faculty. That is working in who's who of the companies. Okay, that's the strength. So our faculty has huge experience of training people to work in such kind of companies. We have partnership with some universities, University of Florida, South Carolina, St. Cloud, Amsterdam, where students can go and spend a semester there, last semester typically. And we have certifications with RPA. If some of you are interested, you can also do RPA certification, provided you clear their exam. We have Cisco certification, IBM certification, Red Hat, Oracle, etc. With this, I will close and invite you all to partner with technology. Because if you don't, you will miss the race. It is in your own self-interest that you partner with the technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. So a huge round of applause, maybe virtually, but Dr. Goyal would be able to hear the applaud with our faces, with our smiles. So may I request everybody to turn on their videos, please, quickly. Sir, would you be happy to take a couple of questions we have from the audiences?
As many as they want.
Okay, so we have one student, Saket, and he says that he has read it somewhere, okay, by 2025, 50% of the labors will be replaced by machines. So is it in the Western context, or it is equally applicable to our own motherland? Is it possible to happen in India as well? So that is one.
See, I also showed you a slide. That's a World Economic Forum projection. World Economic Forum projection is not about a country. World Economic Forum is international, global. I can show the slide again. Same thing.
Okay.
This is World Economic Forum report. It says by 2025, more than 50% work will be done by the machines. Now, that does not mean the men will not do those jobs at all. There will be certain things that the men will do, certain things the machine will assist.
Sir, is it possible in our country, because there is so much population, so is it possible that 50% will be replaced by machines?
That is that is the challenge for your generation, bache. That is a challenge for your generation, to find it in the right manner, to do it in the right manner. Otherwise, this will create a social chaos. I agree with you. Whether we want, is it a choice that I have, or the technology will become so cheap? Technology, globally available technology, will be so cheap that it will make no sense for anybody not to use it. Even if you put an excise custom duty of 500%. See, technology, you can't beat technology. You can beat technology only by superior technology. By taxes, etc., by inhibition, etc., technology cannot be beaten. You have to find a nice way of integrating technology. You have to become, the challenge of the policymakers is larger now. Choose the election, you have the voting power. Choose the leaders who have the vision, who don't talk of useless issues, but who talk of the real issues. Okay, so it depends upon your generation. If you give us leadership that will talk of the real issues, that will create us, give us possibilities, that will make a great country, use this opportunity, or you give us bad leadership which will take us into the dark era. That will depend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We also have a philosophical type of question by Prasuk. Prasuk is talking about industrial revolution. Did we really need it, or we needed it? So Prasuk, I would like you to come forward and elaborate upon this question before Sanjay sir starts attempting to handle it. Prasuk Jain, is he here? Prasuk,
Yes,
are you here?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you
So, sir, I would.
And elaborate upon your question. What is the exact question which you want to ask?
So, I wanted to ask: did we need technology to do technology? In which way? In which the way are we proceeding towards our technology?
If we see, technology is artificial, surely, but artificiality is natural to human beings. We evolved into a species that creates tools. That is the evolution that has happened with us. So if you don't do it, there is some other person in our species who will do it. We did not do it. So the richest country of that time, the Mughal Empire that we had, 25% share in the world GDP. During Shah Jahan's time, India had 25% share in the world GDP. 25%. Imagine. सोने की चिड़िया ऐसे नहीं कहते थे, असल में था. But because the life was good, land is very fertile, innovation stopped. Innovation stopped. And because their land was tough, their terrain was difficult, they were living in difficult conditions, they had to fight. They invented. And not one, they went on inventing. And we became the slave. So if technology was not there, the slavery would exist even today in the worst form. It is only if you want to bring technology is also a tool for bringing social justice and democracy.
That's true.
Through technology, you can bring social justice, equality, liberty, democracy. All the values that are spoken of in our great Constitution of India. You think if you are a socially active person, you are not a money-minded person. I am happy to see persons who are interested in social justice, etc. I'm more happy to see that. See how technology can be used to bring forward those ideas. I gave you the example.
Yeah, of example of sewage treatment.
Sewage cleaning. How many laborers are dying every year trying to clean the sewage? Do you know? We have no idea. Actually, more people die cleaning the labor in the country than on the border. That may surprise you. And we don't even know that. It doesn't become a news. Because they are very poor people. Very poor people. So there are poisonous gases in the sewer and we make those people get down there and get infected. That material that is there is infectious. They get skin diseases. They die. If they don't die there, they die after some years. They get big diseases. Can you create a robo? A cheap robo which will do it? That will be a Raja Ravi Mohan Rai of today. So social justice, on one hand, you need social movements to bring awareness. You need laws in the parliament to enforce certain good values. But more than that, unless you have the technology, no law can be implemented. The moment you have the technology, laws can be implemented. So technology is a requirement and is our nature. It is our nature. We are a being. We are a technological being. For thousands of years that our species has existed, we have been continuously evolving. Look at the history as the history of technology, you will understand. Does that answer you?
Yes, sir. But I wanted to ask another question. Did we really moving forward to this? Did we really moving in the right direction?
We will have to hold it. We can have an elaborate discussion. We can continue the discussion offline. There is another meeting which is scheduled, which is in fact running in parallel with this. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. A couple of quick observations which I have. So technology indeed happens to be a double-edged sword. We cannot blame the knife if it hurts somebody who is using it, but we'll have to use it judiciously. We will have to use it mindfully. On one hand, we have automatic sewage treatment plants, but on the other hand, the technology is also giving rise to a new kind of waste streams like e-waste that has given rise to villages in which the entire population is suffering from cancer. So we have those cancerous villages. So those things would always be there. There are always the two of the coin. So a judicious and mindful use of technology has to be there. You people being from the management profession, so I would again reiterate that management is a profession. So finance, marketing, HR, it is not about studying certain books, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Goyal. But then management as a profession, in every profession, be it doctors, be it lawyers. So when lawyers were fighting their cases, they never heard about these cyber laws. But when they came in, they developed themselves, they adapted themselves, they increased their knowledge. So knowledge, skills, and right set of attitudes, those would be required even in the management professions. So marketing minus technology doesn't make any sense. Finance without technology doesn't make any sense. HR without technology, or production and operations without technology, they are meaningless. So it is more of a convergence of various disciplines. So same thing applies to the design discipline as well. So we will have to update our knowledge, we will have to update our skills, we will have to have the right kind of mindset, right kind of attitude when we are approaching the future. Some of the virtual products, Goyal Saab, I was very much fascinated. Almost 10 years back, I read it somewhere that people are working on transmitting fragrance. So if I wish to communicate to you, I can communicate with the smileys or voice talks or maybe the videos, but now I want to actually send you that rose fragrance. So how do we send that rose fragrance? So there were some researchers which were going on in that area as well. And instead of transmission, one great idea that came was at the transmitting station, I click on the button for rose or jasmine or whichever flower I wish. And then there would be a pot at the receiver's end with all the chemicals, with all the ingredients. So the moment I click my button over here, there would be generation of that fragrance at the receiver's end. So it's not actually looking at, we are not actually transmitting it, but we are regenerating it at the destination, at the sink end. So there are various ways of looking at things. The session was brilliant. It was very enlightening, very enriching for all of us over here. And I would now request Bisman to propose the formal vote of thanks. Thank you all the participants also who are here. And my special thanks to Professor Goyal. This really turned out to be beyond our expectations, much more. And we would definitely want to have some more interactions of this type for our students. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Bisman.
Thank you so much, sir. So it's been a privilege to have been proposed to give a vote of thanks to Mr. Sanjay Goyal, sir. A big thank you, sir, for your efforts towards this specific webinar and your efforts towards the subjects that we are going to be studying in the later phase of our courses. You demonstrated each and everything really well. And actually, I would say that I was relating to each and everything because I have done these things in the past. So that was a really good experience with you. And finally, I would like to thank Mr. Ashwini sir as well for giving us such a great opportunity to talk with you, even after being from the management field perspective. Thank you so much, Amit sir, for managing all of these things. Once again, thank you so much, sir. Thanks from MBA and BBS M1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I had good fun.
Same here, sir.